I've never told anyone about what happened when I was 10. For 30 years, it's been this thing I've carried around, wondering if I made it all up. But with the news about what they found during the park renovation last month, I can't stop thinking about it. Growing up, I wasn't good with other kids. I was the quiet one, the kid who'd rather read a book than play kickball. My mom would drop me off at the park after school while she finished her shift at the hospital. She thought I was making friends, but most days I just walked around by myself, making up my own games. There was this spot behind the big oak tree near the edge of the creek where nobody really went. The ground was always a bit muddy there, even in summer. That's where I started my box game. I found this old wooden cigar box in our basement and decided it would be my treasure chest. I'd put small toys inside, army men, marbles, cool rocks I found, and bury it in the soft dirt. Then the next day I'd dig it up again, like I was finding treasure. It became this thing I looked forward to every day. Sometimes I'd leave notes for myself, pretending they were messages from pirates or aliens. I'd draw little maps showing where the box was buried. The best part was that no one else knew about it. It was just my thing. This went on for almost a month that summer. I'd bury the box before going home, and the next day I'd come back and dig it up. I started marking the spot with different piles of sticks or rocks so I could find it easier. Then came the day everything changed. It was late August, hot and sticky. I went to my spot and started digging where I'd left the box the day before. The ground looked different somehow, like someone else had been messing with it. When I pulled out my box, it felt heavier than it should have. I opened it, and instead of my 3 army men and the cool blue marble I'd left, there was a knife. Not a kitchen knife, but one of those folding pocket knives. The blade was open, and there was something dark and crusty on it. Even as a kid, I knew it was dried blood. I dropped the box like it had burned me. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I looked around, but the park was mostly empty that day. Just some moms with really little kids over by the sandbox, too far away to see me. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to tell someone, my mom, or maybe the park ranger who sometimes walked around. But then I'd have to explain about my box, and I was afraid I'd get in trouble for digging holes in the park. And what if whoever put the knife there came back and found out I'd told someone? So I did the only thing my scared 10-year-old brain could think of. I put the knife back in the box, closed it, and buried it again, deeper this time. I smoothed the dirt over and scattered leaves on top, trying to make it look like no one had been there. I didn't go back to that spot for a week. I told my mom I wanted to read on the benches instead. Every time someone walked by, I'd get tense, wondering if it was the person who'd found my box. But after a week, I was too curious to stay away. I had to know if the knife was still there, or if maybe I'd made up the whole thing. So one afternoon, I went back to my spot. The ground looked untouched, exactly how I'd left it. I dug carefully, half hoping the box wouldn't be there, but it was. And when I opened it, the knife was still there. This time, there was also a folded piece of paper. The note was written in pencil, the handwriting neat, but somehow off, like someone had tried really hard to write clearly. It reads, "Thank you for keeping my secret. Can you meet me by the big oak at sunset on Friday? Bring the knife." I don't know why I didn't just fill in the hole and never go back. Maybe it was because I didn't have many friends, and there was something exciting about having a secret, even a scary one. Or maybe I was just a dumb kid who didn't get how dangerous it was. Whatever the reason, I took the knife to the creek, used some sand from the bottom to scrub off the dried blood, and rinsed it in the water. It took forever to get all the dark, crusty stuff off. The whole time I was cleaning it, my mind was going back and forth. One second I'd be thinking this was the stupidest thing I'd ever done. I mean, what kid cleans a bloody knife for a stranger? But then I'd think about how this was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to me. I had a real mystery, a real secret. Part of me was scared, but another part was almost proud, like I was helping with something important. I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone watching me from the trees, but no one was there. Just me. alone with this bloody knife that didn't belong to me, that I shouldn't be touching. The creek water turned a rusty color around my hands as I worked. I remember thinking that if my mom saw me now, I'd be grounded until I was 30. I kept the knife in my backpack for 2 days, wrapped in a hand towel I took from the bathroom. Every time my mom picked up my backpack to move it, I felt sick, sure she'd feel the weight of it and look inside. Friday came, and I told my mom I wanted to stay at the park a little later to watch the ducks at sunset. She seemed happy that I was enjoying nature and said she'd pick me up at the parking lot at 7:30 instead of 6. I sat on the bench near the oak tree, my backpack on my lap, watching the sun go down. The park slowly emptied as dinner time came. A few joggers passed by. An old man walked his tiny dog along the path. None of them paid any attention to me. By the time the sun was touching the horizon, I was alone. The shadows got longer, and the oak tree that had always seemed friendly now looked twisted and scary. Every little sound, squirrels in the bushes, birds settling in for the night, made me jump. 7 o'clock came and went, then 7:15. I knew I needed to head to the parking lot to meet my mom, but I was afraid to move. What if the person showed up just as I was leaving? What if they followed me to the parking lot? At 7:25, I finally got up the nerve to stand up. No one had come. Maybe it was all just a weird joke. I felt both relieved and let down as I headed toward the parking lot. My mom was waiting in the car, reading a magazine. She asked if I'd had fun watching the ducks. I nodded and buckled my seatbelt, the knife still in my backpack, heavy against my legs. That night, I had trouble falling asleep. Every creak in our old house made me think someone was coming to find me, to ask why I hadn't waited longer. When I finally did sleep, that's when it happened. In my dream, I was back at the park, sitting on the bench. But it was different. The colors too bright, the shadows too dark. I could feel someone sit down next to me, but I couldn't turn my head to look at them. A voice spoke, very soft but clear. You didn't wait long enough. It wasn't a kid's voice, but it wasn't exactly an adult's either. It had no anger in it, just a gentle disappointment. I just needed to borrow the knife for one more thing, the voice continued. But maybe it's better this way. Better for you. Then there was a long silence, and I finally turned my head to look. There was a man sitting next to me, but I couldn't see his face in the dark. All I could see were his hands. They were covered in blood. So much blood. It was all over his fingers and under his nails. It was dripping onto the bench between us. The blood looked dark in the night, almost black. Sometimes I do things I can't control, he said, his voice getting quieter, so I had to lean closer. He said he would leave this town forever, so that nobody would find out the terrible things he had done. He stood up, and I could see he was wearing regular clothes. Jeans, a dark jacket. Nothing scary. He looked like anybody's dad or teacher. I woke up shaking, the dream so real I could still feel the cool evening air from the park on my skin. I got out of bed and checked my backpack. The knife was still there. The next day, I took the knife to the creek, a different part far from my usual spot, and threw it in as hard as I could. I watched it splash and sink, and I never went back to that part of the park again. Life went on. I grew up, moved away for college, got a job in another state. I almost convinced myself it had all been in my head, some weird game I'd made up because I was lonely. Then last month I got a text from my mom with a link to our hometown newspaper. "Isn't this the park you used to play in?" she asked. The article was about renovations at the park. During the renovation, construction workers had found human remains. The skeleton had been buried for at least 30 years, according to preliminary examinations. Near the bones, they found a wooden box containing a child's toys. The article didn't specify exactly where in the park they found it. But I know. I've always known where my special spot was. And now, I keep thinking about that dream, about the man with the hands full of blood. Was it really a dream? Or was it something else? And the knife, where did it really come from? Whose blood was that on the blade? Did I help cover up something horrible without even realizing it? I'll probably take these questions to my grave. I can't stop thinking about what happened at the playground yesterday. My hands are still shaking as I type this. I need to put it down somewhere. Try to make sense of it, because I keep going over it in my head and wondering what could have happened if I'd been just a few seconds slower. It started as such a normal day. I took my 5-year-old son, Jake, and my 3-month-old daughter, Lily, to the playground to meet up with my friend Sarah and her daughter. It's this nice little park with a regular playground equipment, a big grassy area and trees all around it. The area is pretty rural, just a bunch of twisty roads and random buildings scattered around. It's the kind of place where you don't think much about safety. Everyone knows everyone, that whole small town feeling. At least that's what I thought. When we got there, Sarah was already there, and another mom we knew, Michelle, was there with her 2 girls. The only other people at the playground were a dad with a little girl and a boy who looked to be around 10 or 12 years old. We moms were sitting on a bench, talking and taking turns holding Lily, who was being super cute that day. The kids were all playing together, running around and having a good time. After a while, they split up around the playground, doing their own thing. Jake wandered over to the seesaws, which are in a shaded area at the edge of the playground. Beyond the seesaws is a stretch of grass, and then trees. Jake was trying to use the seesaw, but he needed someone on the other end. I got up to help him when this boy, the 10 or 12-year-old I'd noticed earlier, came over to us. The boy asked me, not Jake, if I wanted him to play with my son. That struck me as odd, but I brushed it off. Kids can be awkward sometimes. I told him sure, that would be fine. He got on the other end of the seesaw and started going up and down with Jake, but the way he acted was strange. He didn't smile. His voice was completely flat when he spoke. He didn't say a word to Jake, just silently seesawed with him. Meanwhile, Jake was chattering away, completely unaware of the boy's weird vibe. After a few minutes, I started walking back to the bench where my friends were sitting. As I walked away, I heard the boy finally start talking to Jake. I figured maybe he was just shy around adults, which made sense. I sat back down with my friends, and a moment later, the dad I'd seen earlier walked past us, probably heading to his car. I wanted to be friendly, so I called out to him, telling him it was really sweet of his son to offer to play with mine. The man looked confused. He told me the boy wasn't his son. He had no idea who the kid was. Apparently, the boy had walked over and asked if he wanted him to play with his daughter, then just followed them around until we arrived. The man laughed awkwardly about how weird it was, then continued walking. My stomach dropped. I quickly looked over to the seesaws, but Jake and the boy were gone. I jumped up, handed Lily to Sarah, and ran toward the seesaws, yelling Jake's name. That's when I spotted them in the distance, walking toward the trees that were nearly a football field away from the playground. I felt a wave of pure fear wash over me. I ran as fast as I could, screaming Jake's name. He turned around and started trying to walk toward me. That's when I saw it. The boy grabbed Jake's arm and tried to pull him toward the trees. Jake started yelling and fighting back. My son has ADHD and doesn't handle being grabbed or held very well. Usually this is something that brings me nothing but parent-teacher meetings and sorry phone calls, but today I was thankful for it. Jake started punching the boy and headbutting him like a little wild animal. The boy let go just as I reached them and then ran straight into the trees. My friends, finally seeing something was wrong, were standing at the edge of the playground looking confused. Jake was crying. I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Once I got Jake calmed down, I asked him where he was going with the boy. Jake told me, between sniffles, that the boy had said he was taking him to see Ryan. My blood ran cold. Ryan's Toy Review is Jake's favorite YouTube channel. He talks about it constantly to anyone who will listen. Jake went on to tell me that the boy claimed to know where Ryan lived and had invited him to visit and play with all his toys. When I asked about a comment Jake made about his favorite color, He explained that the boy had asked him what his favorite color was. Jake had told him blue, and the boy said that was his favorite too. Then the boy had asked about his favorite YouTuber, which is when Jake mentioned Ryan, and the boy made his offer. I hugged Jake tight, my mind racing. Why would a child try to lure my son into the woods? What was waiting back there? Was it just another kid playing a strange game, or was it something more evil? That night, after the kids were in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I called the police and reported what happened. They took my information but didn't seem very worried. The officer suggested it was probably just kids being kids, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was something more. I checked on Jake several times that night, watching his peaceful sleeping face and thinking about how differently the day could have ended. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw that boy's blank face, heard his flat voice asking if he could play with my son. Not asking my son, asking me, like Jake was a toy he wanted to borrow. The next morning, I called the elementary school near the playground to report what happened. The secretary listened nicely, but reminded me that school was out for summer, so it would be hard to identify any student. She promised to pass the information along to the principal and the school resource officer. A week has passed, and I've been asking around about that boy. No one seems to know who he is. He doesn't go to Jake's school. None of the parents I know recognize my description of him. It's like he just showed up out of nowhere that day at the playground. Last night, Jake had a nightmare. He woke up crying, telling me that the boy from the playground was in his dream, asking him to come play. What scared me most was when Jake said the boy's voice was different in the dream, like a grown-up pretending to be a kid. I held him until he fell back asleep, but I didn't sleep at all. I kept thinking about that boy with the blank face and flat voice. The way he didn't speak until I walked away. The way he grabbed Jake's arm when I called out. The way he ran into the trees and disappeared. Every time Jake wants to go to a playground now, my stomach knots up. Every time I see a child I don't recognize, I pull my kids closer. Sometimes, I would wonder if the boy with the flat voice and empty eyes is out there, waiting for another chance to ask another mother if he can play with her child. I've always had trouble sleeping. For as long as I can remember, I'd lie awake for hours while everyone else in the house was dead to the world. My parents tried everything, cutting screen time, meditation, even this weird tea my grandma swore by that tasted like dirt. Nothing worked. I'm 16 now, and I've just learned to live with it. When everyone's asleep, and I'm still wide awake at 1 a.m., I don't fight it anymore. I just put on my shoes and go for a walk. We live in this quiet suburb where nothing ever happens. The houses are all similar, the lawns are all neat, and at night it's dead silent, except for the random car. My favorite place to go is the small park at the end of our street. During the day, it's full of screaming little kids and watchful parents, but at night, it belongs to me. About 2 months ago, I was sitting on the swings around 2 a.m., just gently rocking back and forth while scrolling through my phone. That's when I heard it, the sound of another swing creaking. I looked up, thinking I'd see some other kid who couldn't sleep, but there was no one there. Just the empty swing next to me, moving slightly like someone had just gotten off it. I figured it was the wind, even though the night was completely still. But then it started swinging higher, the chains creaking in a steady rhythm. Not scary or anything horror movie-like. Just the way a swing moves when someone is pumping their legs to gain height. I should have been scared, but honestly, it was more interesting than frightening. I sat there watching as the empty swing went higher and higher, then slowly came to a stop. The whole time I had this feeling like I was being watched, but not in a scary way. More like someone was just as curious about me as I was about them. Something weird happened as I watched the swing. My mind, which is usually racing with a million thoughts, started to slow down. All the worries about school, about my future, about that dumb thing I said 3 years ago, they just faded away. I felt almost in a trance from the rhythmic creaking, the back and forth motion. For the first time in forever, my brain was quiet. I don't even remember closing my eyes, but I must have dozed off right there on the swing. I jerked awake when I started to slip forward, nearly falling face first onto the ground. The swing next to me was completely still now. I checked my phone. I'd been sitting there for nearly an hour, but it felt like minutes. When I got home, I was finally tired enough to fall asleep almost right away. I had the best night's sleep I'd had in years. The next night, I couldn't wait for everyone to go to bed so I could go back to the park. For the next few weeks, I went to the park almost every night. Sometimes the swing would move, sometimes it wouldn't. But whenever it did, I'd look at it while my eyelids got heavier and heavier. I never heard a voice back, but the swing would respond in its way, swinging higher for yes, stopping for no, moving gently when unsure. I know how this sounds. Trust me, I questioned my sanity plenty of times. But there was something comforting about these midnight meetings. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had found a solution for my insomnia. Every time I watched that swing move, my mind would calm down, like someone was turning down the volume on my thoughts. I'd spend an hour or so at the park, then go home and sleep deeply until morning. Last week, I decided to bring an old Polaroid camera I found in our basement. My dad used to be into photography, and he had this old camera stored away with some film that was probably expired but still good. I thought it would be cool to take pictures of my midnight park visits, maybe start an Instagram series or something. I took a few shots of the empty park, the slide with the streetlights behind it, the moonlight shining off the metal merry-go-round. Then I sat on my usual swing and turned the camera around to take a selfie. I snapped the picture and waited for it to develop, watching as the dark square slowly showed an image. That's when I noticed something was wrong. In the background of my selfie, the swing next to me wasn't empty. There was a dark, blurry shape sitting on it. Not clear enough to see any features, just a human-sized shadow that definitely wasn't there when I took the picture. My hands were shaking. I held it under the light of my phone. The shape was still there. A dark outline that looked like a person sitting on the swing, leaning slightly toward me. I turned around to look at the real swing, which was completely empty and still. I took another picture, this time aiming right at the empty swing. When the image developed, there was nothing there, just the empty swing. I took 3 more shots from different angles. Nothing. The figure only showed up in that first selfie. I didn't stay much longer that night. I kept the photos in my pocket and hurried home, checking over my shoulder every few seconds. For the first time, my late-night park visits had actually scared me. That calming feeling was gone, replaced by a cold, crawling feeling up my spine. When I got home, I put the Polaroid with the strange figure on my desk and fell into an uneasy sleep. I had nightmares about being followed, about someone watching me from the shadows. I woke up feeling tired and on edge. That evening, I wasn't sure about going back to the park, but after everyone went to bed, my curiosity won out over my fear. I grabbed the Polaroid from my desk to compare whatever I might see tonight with what I'd captured in the photo. But when I looked at the picture, my blood went cold. The dark figure that had been sitting on the swing next to me was gone. The photo now showed exactly what I'd seen with my eyes that night. Just me on the swing, alone in the park. The shape had completely disappeared from the image. I searched my room frantically, thinking maybe I had mixed up the photos. But I had only brought home 4, the selfie with the figure and the 3 empty swing shots. Now all 4 showed nothing strange, just empty swings and empty spaces where I knew I'd seen something else. I went back to the park that night, watching the swings from a distance. They stayed perfectly still. No movement, no creaking, no invisible presence enjoying my company. The park felt empty and normal for the first time in weeks. My mind started racing again, all my anxious thoughts rushing back in at once. That peaceful, trance-like state was nowhere to be found. It's been 2 weeks, and I haven't seen the swing move again. My insomnia has come back worse than before. Some nights, I sit at my window, staring at the distant shape of the playground, wondering what changed, The only thing that's different is the photo. Something was in that picture and now it's gone, like it stepped out of the image. I haven't told anyone about the swings or the disappearing figure in the photo. Who would believe me? But I've started noticing things around my house. Items moved from where I left them. The sound of footsteps when I'm home alone. The feeling of someone standing just behind me when I look in the mirror. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. Through half-closed eyes, I saw a dark figure standing in the doorway. Just for a second, before it slipped away down the hall. I've started sleeping with my bedroom door locked now. But sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, I hear a faint rhythmic creaking from somewhere in the house. The same sound the park swings make when someone is pumping their legs to gain height. And strangely, when I hear it, my eyelids start to get heavy again. My racing thoughts begin to slow down. It's trying to help me sleep, I think. It's been a month now. My insomnia is completely gone. But the thing is, I don't think I'm alone anymore. It's not just when I sleep either. I feel like someone is always watching me in my room, when I'm reading, when I'm eating, even when I'm just sitting at my desk doing homework. I've finally cured my insomnia, but now I'm never truly alone.